gonna have to stop more frequently for... Ladies and gentlemen, 2024 Mazda CX-30 Turbo all-wheel drive with the Premium Plus package. This is the top trim CX-30 that you can buy. Big thanks to CardinaleWay Mazda out here in Las Vegas for making this review possible. And today we're comparing it to, well, my Mazda CX-50 is not here, but I'm going to be telling you how it compares to my 2023 Mazda CX-50. Today is Mazda Day. We just finished reviewing this beautiful 1992 NA Miata. If you want to see how that drives, then make sure you subscribe. That one's coming out soon. So, exterior styling on the CX-30, a bit polarizing, right? Mazda has this like Kodo design language, and it's a little bit more flowy and natural, organic, and sporty. I think it looks good. The front end to me is not as timeless and proportionally as beautiful as some of their other vehicles. I think the CX-50 looks a lot more rugged. It's a different kind of aesthetic they're going for. I think the rear end though and the silhouette looks fantastic. Like that rear end quite a bit. But with that kind of sporty sloped back, you're of course getting a compromise with your cargo capacity. So here, as you can see, you don't have that much space back here, especially with the top sloping down. You can of course fold these seats down, 60-40 split. And I think for a lot of people, let's say you're single or a small family, you can probably make this work. For me, I like putting my bike in the back, and my bike is a 58 centimeter road bike, does not fit back here, for those wondering. This is me sitting behind myself at 6'1", and it's definitely tighter back here, right? My knees need to kind of straddle the seat because right here they actually push into the back, and my head almost touches. I got about an inch left. But in terms of the materials, really nice. Mazda's been doing this whole affordable luxury kind of thing, and I'm digging it. I mean, that's a big reason why I got my Mazda CX-50. All these materials are really nice to touch. I mean, a few touch points, like same with my CX-50, the actual door handle on the driver's side door, not the highest quality. The inside feels like cheap plastic. The outside looks, you know, nice with the leather. But I have the same problem with my CX-50, not a huge deal. Let's start her up. If you've been in any modern Mazda, this is a very, very familiar place. We have physical HVAC controls, the same as in the CX-50, and I like them. I mean, they feel great. You have this little cliff or shelf of buttons right here. Feels premium. This is the newer design language. If you look at the Mazda CX-5, which we have reviewed on this channel before, right up here, then you're gonna notice that the buttons, it's the older style, right? All the graphics, the visuals, even the HUD, it's the newer, like it's a cleaner and more premium feeling aesthetic. We have this amazing to use infotainment system. I think it's fantastic with this dial wheel. A little bit of a learning curve when you're first getting into a Mazda. People kind of complain that the touchscreen is a little bit too far, but I've explained why that's actually not a bad thing. It's closer to your line of sight, and also when it's further, your ciliary muscles in your eyes don't have to do as much accommodation to focus near versus far. So I find it very pleasant to use, and once you get used to this wheel here, it's fantastic. You have the shortcuts for navigation, music, home, and back, which, you know, in these 4 quadrants, again, really well designed, a pleasure to use. This part here, I'm not sure if you can tell, but there's like this subtle fake carbon fiber underneath the plastic, which I think looks good. It looks better than straight piano black. I have straight piano black in my CX-50, although the plastic layer on top still scratches quite a bit. I ended up putting a little film over mine, which is like a matte finish that makes it look less shiny, and I think makes it look a little bit better. They do talk about the off-road capabilities, so we're out here off-roading, but obviously this is more of like the same capability of off-roading as a Crosstrek. I'm not going to actually be testing the off-road capabilities today. Mazda is really intelligent in how they've designed and place these products in the market, because the touch points, the interior, like here, the interior design, you have a little bit more swoopy kind of curves, which matches more of the exterior. So the interior exterior kind of congruence is great, right? It matches. In the CX-50, it's a little bit more squared off, slightly more rugged in a way, and that matches the exterior there. But what they've done that I really appreciate is they've spent time, money, and energy in the places that count most for most people. So, for example, the road noise is really low in this vehicle for the class, right? The materials, the steering wheel, all these things really nice to touch. And you can argue that, hey, they cheaped out McPherson strut front suspension in the front versus double wishbone, and they have torsion beam rear suspension rather than independent rear suspension like in the CX-5. They save the more premium mechanical parts for their higher end vehicles. So the CX-90, as an example, has double wishbone in the front. By cutting corners here and there, they're able to provide these vehicles at a much cheaper price and still give you a great driving experience, because they've still tuned it in a way a little bit stiffer, a little bit sportier, that it drives shockingly well. And are there times that you notice the rear doesn't have independent rear suspension? Sure, especially over uneven bumps. And would the ride quality be better with independent rear suspension? Sure, but that torsion beam is not as much of a compromise as a lot of people think. Now, how does it actually drive? The steering on this is quite good for the class of vehicle. It has great accuracy. It's a little bit heavier than average, good amount of feedback, but it's not as good as the CX-50. And by the way, yes, this does also weight up in the corners, which is nice. There's this strange thing happening with the power steering where right around center, there's a bit of this like stickiness, which you don't get in the CX-50. And I wonder if that's like friction, where the wheel doesn't fully recenter and there's a little bit of a lack of, or a reduced feel near center in particular. I got a lot of that stickiness with my GR86 in the past as well before I sold it. And the other thing I've noticed, I can't really show you here, but when you do these immediate fast turns, you feel the steering is light and then all of a sudden it gets heavy, like at a sharp moment, as if like the motor is catching up to the movement. It's kind of weird, and a little bit, you know, it's not a common thing that you're gonna face, but it was a little bit unsettling when that happened. I was like, there's something wrong with the steering, making some weird noises, having some weird feelings. But 90% of the time when you're driving this, you're gonna think, hey, this has good steering, better than average for the class of vehicle, but I do wanna make it clear, not as good as the CX-50. And as many of you know who watch this channel, I care a lot about steering because that's a big part of the driving enjoyment for me. Try to turn this. Now we can put this into manual mode, and the cool thing, compared to prior gens, or prior model years I should say. Oh, wait a second. I was gonna say that it holds the gear, it doesn't auto upshift, and it auto upshifted right there. But when I was testing it out the other day, it did not auto upshift. So let's see. There we go, it's holding it in second. There we go, getting the tail out a little bit in this Mazda CX-30. We're having a good time. You can definitely feel it's lighter than the CX-50. So this weighs around 3,400 pounds, whereas the CX-50 is about 400 pounds heavier. But this is still powered by the same engine. We have a 2.5 liter inline-4 turbocharged, and it's making 227 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque on 87 octane, which is what we have right now. But if you put in 93, it'll make 250 horsepower, 320 pound-feet of torque. And in a vehicle like this, of this class, it's a great engine. Plenty of power, plenty of grunt. You're not gonna complain about that at all. The thing I will say though is you go online and you read these reviews or you watch these videos, and a lot of people are going to harp on like, oh, it only has a 6-speed transmission, but let's ask, why is that important? Sure, other manufacturers, they have 8 speeds now as standard. Okay, why is that relevant? Why is that important? So there's two main things. Number one, you want to be in the power band, right? You want to be, when you have more gears, you can make sure that the engine is at the right RPM when you're pushing it, when you need to overtake or, you know, get a little bit more enthusiastic with your acceleration, or get a little bit more, you know, aggressive with your acceleration. But the thing is, this engine is so torquey. They tuned it in a way that it's a lot of torque down, though it actually dies off close to redline. And by the way, you're going to notice that it actually shifts before redline. Redline's right around 6K, but it really dies off by then. So the transmission tuning, the logic is such that it'll shift well before that, and you have plenty of torque down low. So the 6-speed is allowing you to actually be in the power band as you would want, as you would expect, and having more gears not really necessary. The transmission is also really smooth between gears. It's not the fastest, so when you go into manual mode and use your paddle shifters, you know, like I'm in 5th, you know, it takes a half second to shift between gears, but it's always smooth, and that's more important for a car like this. You don't care about how quickly it shifts between gears. But the second main reason why the 6 versus 8 speed is important is fuel efficiency. Now, when you're on the highway, this is at a really low RPM. This is like 2,000, 2,500 RPM. So the car doesn't have the best fuel efficiency. It's 25 mpg combined. But I don't know how much of that is actually due to the transmission. That's more just the engine tuning. They don't have any hybrid options. This turbocharged 2.5 liter inline 4 just isn't the most fuel efficient engine in any of the models that they put this in. But the way this thing drives, it's actually borderline fun, right? It's an enjoyable driving experience because they focus on driver dynamics, right? The steering is good, the suspension tuning is good, it's still comfortable, but a little bit on the sportier side, not harsh, you have good body control. All right, we're in sport mode now, which really just changes the shift logic. Okay, it is auto upshifting. I thought it was holding the gears, but again, not really important in a car like this. But the other day, I felt like it was holding the gears, and I'm not sure what settings I must have changed or what's different. But yeah, this car is like, it's actually enjoyable to drive. A small CUV, something you're gonna daily, you want it to not be a chore and a drag every time you get behind the wheel. And this is a car that you're gonna have fun with. The inputs are well dialed in, good steering, really nice interior quality, NVH, ride quality. The suspension, even though it's an inferior geometry, torsion beam in the rear and McPherson strut in the front, they've tuned it in a way that it actually drives better than you would expect based on just the spec sheet. The main consideration here between the CX-30 and the CX-50 is size and price. So the CX-50, again, a little bit over 400 pounds heavier, and this one comes in around 36K fully loaded MSRP, I think before destination, and the CX-50, I believe, is around 43K. So you're looking at an extra $7,000, and with that, you're getting a substantial size increase. You're getting better steering. You're getting, I mean, with the size, you're getting a more usable second row as well as cargo space if you want to haul around your bike. Towing capacity in the CX-50 Turbo is also 3,500 pounds. And by the way, for those who are doing that, you can get the tow package installed by Mazda. For those who are not towing but want a tow hitch, like me, because I put my bike on that, you can install your own little tow hitch, which I did for probably 150 bucks was the part, maybe 200 bucks. And then, you know, less than an hour of your time, not too hard. But this CX-30 doesn't have any tow rating at all from Mazda. So keep that in mind, depending on your use case. This is going to drive, based on the lighter weight, it's going to drive a little bit more dynamically. As we're pushing it here, I can tell you that you do feel the weight difference, but again, how many people are really pushing their CUV hard on the corners and in the canyons like this? They're both going to drive really well. They're both a joy to use. They both punch way above their weight class. The level of quality you get with the interior, the ride quality, even just like the infotainment and the buttons, they feel way more premium. And it sounds like a small thing, but you know, this newer gen, you know, the CX-30, CX-50, more so than the CX-5, it just feels so nice when you're in here. It feels so much more premium. I was actually surprised because I got behind the wheel of a CX-5 and it's still a great vehicle, but it feels older. It doesn't feel quite as premium to me. And then of course people talk about where they're built. CX-5 is actually still built in Japan, CX-50 in Alabama, and the 30 in Mexico. And are there going to be some QC differences? I'm not sure. You know, possibly. Time will tell. I had some issues with my lower control arm on my suspension on my CX-50. Oh, traction control kind of kicking in. And with the turbos, they don't let you actually disable traction control. Some other cool things with this 2024 CX-30, you now have lane centering, not just lane keep. Now, I'm not sure whether or not they do that in the new 24 CX-50 as well. I'm guessing they would, as they're updating their whole lineup. But compared to my 23, that one only has lane keep. So as you're about to leave the lane, it'll nudge you back into the lane and it'll vibrate the steering wheel. But this one has actual lane centering, which is awesome. Big upgrade if you're doing longer road trips. Because on the highway, you put on that lane centering, and rather than ping-ponging back and forth, it'll actually hold you in place. And of course, you need to keep your hands on the wheel. It'll nudge you if you don't. But it does a good job. I was testing it out the last few days, and on the highways, it's great. Obviously, on a road like this, I mean, we can try it, but it's not really designed for, you know, these twisty kind of roads. So let's see, we're here. Let's put it at 45. And right now, it's working as designed. Look at that. See, right now it's saying, oh, steering assist unavailable. We got some, you know, ups and downs, impeding its visibility, also the turns. But again, not really designed for roads like this. You want to use it on the highway, and it does a good job there. With the all-wheel drive system on the CX-30, it actually decreases the fuel tank size just based on packaging. So this is less than 13 gallons, it's like 12.7 gallons. So you're gonna have to stop more frequently for fuel ups than you probably would like in a vehicle of this class. On top of that, of course, as we discussed, the fuel efficiency isn't the best in class. It's passable, I think, but you'll have to decide how important that is to you. Obviously saving money by going the regular octane versus premium, but still 25 combined isn't the best, especially when you have some competitors that are doing quite a bit more than that. We do have the heated steering wheel, the heated seat in this highest trim. We don't have the cooled seats though. And I'm wondering, is that just not available in the CX-30, or is that offered on some other package? I thought this was the highest trim. So my CX-50 does have the cooled seats, which out here in Las Vegas when it's really hot, I very much appreciate. Sound system, by the way, with Bose actually sounds pretty good. Bose is kind of hit or miss when it comes to audio systems and vehicles, and this one actually sounds pretty good. It's still a little bass heavy, as Bose tends to be, but no major complaints. Oh yeah! Some off-roading. Even the sound of the indicator, I love that sound. It is just such a nice, crisp indicator sound. They focus on the details when they refreshed, you know, their infotainment system and all these little inputs and buttons and all these things. It's it feels so much more premium than you would expect for the price point. And when you get into other vehicles that are competing with this, you know, that becomes even more noticeable. It feels entry-level luxury. It feels much higher end than you would expect based on the price point. Now, the plastic cladding, I mean, that's a bit polarizing. I think it works really well on the CX-50. I think with the more sleek design here, aesthetically, doesn't feel quite as fitting. But the upside is, of course, if you are going to be doing off-roading or getting this dirty, you don't have to worry about paint chips and paint getting scuffed up there. But my friends, let me know, what do you think of the 2024 Mazda CX-30? Big thanks to CardinaleWay Mazda for loaning me this vehicle and making this review possible. I actually get my CX-50 service there because they have amazing service. They should give back to the Vegas community as well, which you gotta love. My friends, find their link down in the description. Much love, my friends, and I'll see you all in that next one.